Hi guys, good morning, good afternoon. Hope everyone's well. Little bit of a more subdued show today, but as they say, the show must go on. So let me say hi to everybody. We got Paris. Good morning, Pat. Miss Martin Muses. We've got Mark and Chris. Hey guys, good to see you. Arwen, Larry, good to see you as well. Let's see, we've got the Darren Zone, Project Storytime, Shane Nolan, hey guys. Let me scroll up. Andrew 46 and 2, good to see you. Lord Buff, good morning. Keely Chow, Roll Tide Keely. We have also got Manowar 665, good to see you. Good morning. D-Bud Martin, hey, good to see you as well. Stuart Mitchell, hello there. Darth Haster, good morning. Rab Marshall, good afternoon, and good afternoon to Colin as well. Good to see you. Let me make sure I'm not missing anyone. Sir Persalat, good to see you. I hope you're doing okay. Golgo13, good morning. And a big thank you to Golgo as well. He sent us a super chat. He says, have lunch on me today. Have a great day, and let's show the weirdos we won't support their weirdo shows, movies, music, etc. Halloween is almost here, and the horror that goes with it. Well said, and thank you, Golgo. Really appreciate that. Let's see, make sure I'm not missing anyone. Psycho Dwarf, hey Psycho Dwarf, good to see you. And I think Gun Bunny was here as well. Good to see you guys. And Mobile Recluse, hey, good to see you. So, and Eshing, good afternoon. Dave G Sound, he said, Holy cow, I'm late. No, you're not late at all. Good to see you, and Jotun Dartstar, hey guys. So, like I said, I'm just going to talk about a couple of news stories today. Cover that. Oops. Nearly dropped it on the floor. So, guys, one of the biggest stories that has dropped in the last couple of days is that Disney is pushing back most of their upcoming release schedule. So this is almost all of the Marvel films. This is Indiana Jones as well that's being pushed back. And let's see the reasons that they give for it. So big thank you to Bounding Into Comics. It says Disney has announced that they will be shaking up their current schedule for the upcoming 2022 film releases. In turn, leading films such as Indiana Jones and most Marvel productions to be pushed back from their original slated debuts. So let's have a look. The films affected by the scheduling, which come from Deadline, and they are almost all of the MCU films for the Phase 4. So it also includes Indiana Jones, which is going back from July 29th, being pushed back now until almost a year back, until June 30th, 2023. Is anybody going to care by that point? I don't know. They built up quite a bit of hype for this film, and now being pushed back a year, that's a huge deal for this. Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, which is probably one of the only ones that I was really curious about and thought that could be a really good film, is now being pushed back from March 25th to May. So that's not too bad. That's just a little bit of a difference. Thor, Love and Thunder, a film I keep forgetting about that's coming out, is going from May to July. Black Panther is now going from July to November, which is a much bigger gap than the previous films. And The Marvels, another film that I completely forgot about, is going from November to February 2023. So they're really spacing these films out now. Ant-Man and the Wasp is now going back till 2023 as well. And the Untitled Marvel movie, which may or may not be the Fantastic Four movie that they're hinting at, is now November 2023 as well. And according to this, the only film that's not being affected by this, and we don't know why at this point, is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So surprisingly, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is the only moved to emerge from this shuffle unscathed. I think they meant movie to emerge from this shuffle unscathed. As the third entry in James Gunn's space adventure trilogy, it's set to arrive in theatres on May 5th, 2023, which we already knew. Additionally, according to Deadline, Disney has also removed several films from their release schedule altogether, including a live-action title previously set for July 2023, an untitled Marvel movie, which, again, I think is the Fantastic Four, which they've been kind of hinting at, and an untitled 20th Century Studios movie dated on October for 2023. While no specific reasons was given by Disney for the scheduling shake-up, what do you want to bet that they will probably blame it on the COOF? Deadline reporter Anthony D'Alessandro noted that he has been informed that this is nothing to do with change in distribution strategies for these films, but rather it's all on account of a domino effect with production and filmmakers. Yeah, given what's going on with Hollywood at the moment, I'm not entirely surprised. So, and I highly doubt that this is going to be the only company that's going to be pushing a lot of their films back, either by a couple of months or, as in some cases, half a year. So it goes on to say some titles are contending with finishing scenarios, whilst others are in production. D'Alessandro added, "This is how Disney is solving it, and when you come to think of it, most of the dates are already reserved by the studio for Marvel Fair. They're just moving the titles from one slot to the next." Now, with previous phases, with the Phase 4, they've been very rigid with how they've released their films with the MCU. This one that seems a lot looser with what's coming out. So that's strange. But then again, we did technically have a good ending with Endgame, so you could look at Phase 4 as just a complete restart of the MCU. So just ends with saying, what do you make of the Disney's updated release plans? Let me take that down. There we go. Shane Nolan says, I hate that they changed it from 20th Century Fox to 20th Century Studios. Ridiculous. Yes. And Renzira says that 20th Century Studios was probably one of the Avatar sequels. Yeah, haven't they got like 4 Avatar sequels that they've got planned to come out almost back to back? Which is a little bit odd. I know Avatar kind of really had an impact when it first came out, but it's been so long that the film's been out. I don't think that the audience is there for it. I could be wrong, but it's not one that's really on my radar, I have to admit. Colin says, James Bond, lots of controversy. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, delayed several times, and when finally released, not as bad as feared. Indy 5, controversy. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, major delay equals hope? Maybe. I've got to admit that I did do a kind of review on the last James Bond film. I didn't like it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it certainly wasn't a great film. I thought it wasn't a particularly great ending for his character, and I'm not sure where James Bond as a franchise is going to go from here. But I guess that's something that we will keep our eye on. And hello to Stig, good to see you. And big thank you to Chris. He says, big hug for our favourite redhead. Just want to know how much we appreciate you. Thank you. Mark says Dune is going to breathe new life into cinema, and thankfully Disney does not have hands on it. Absolutely. Well said. And if anyone is thinking about going to see Dune, it's definitely a film that I would recommend. I think a lot of people that were nervous or skeptical about it are going to be happy with what they see. I really enjoyed it, I've got to admit. Project Storytime says I didn't care about Avatar, Ferngully in space, when it came down to the first place. Yeah, I would agree. It was Ferngully, it was Dances with Wolves, it was all those sort of films kind of rolled into one with a space theme on top. Absolutely. Let's see if there's any more that we were looking at. I'm kind of curious as to why only Guardians of the Galaxy escapes, but it might have something to do with James Gunn, or it might be the one that they're really banking on, that they think is going to be a big draw. I know Eternals is coming out or has just been released. Gotta admit, not one that I'm interested in. I'm probably not going to see it, and I'm certainly not going to review it. But again, it's they're really pushing these Marvel films, where in the past the films spoke for themselves. You didn't need people coming out and saying you have to go see this film. You know, it was word of mouth, and we knew what to expect. Let's see. So they're also saying it's unclear why Disney made this last round of delays, especially since Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings has proven to be a box office hit with $414 million worldwide to date. Yes. But that didn't have any competition with the streaming services because it had the window, and Black Widow also came out to really not much fanfare, even though I think to date that's done about 380 million global. So we will see what comes about. Mark says, never saw Dances with Ferngully and Juliet in Space, never intend to. I did see it, but I think I only saw it once. Shane says the Eternals red carpet was painful. I've never heard the word diversity so much. Absolutely. And Golga says box office hit my ass. Well said. Colin says Shang-Chi is still in the cinema. I don't know, to be honest. I haven't seen it, I've got to admit. But they did have that window. I think it was a 45-day window where it was exclusively at the cinemas before it went onto the streaming service. So we'll see. Renzira says Dune 2 is pretty much greenlit, in my opinion. I think it is as well, absolutely. The sets are built, costumes made, actors locked in. So the cost to make the film will be a lot less than the original. Dune seems to be making good at the box office. It does, and I hope it does do well because it really is a film. Although I'm not a huge fan of Dune, it's one that I was hoping for the fans that it would be great, that it is something that they could get behind and really enjoy. And I think they've really delivered. I, as a casual fan, loved it, I've got to admit. And Project Storytime says, I love Avatar with riff tracks. It's a good one, Project Storytime. I admit that. So let's see if there's anything else. The Eternals, it says premieres are 18th of October, so we will see in the next couple of days. I've already seen people shilling for it. I think there's going to be a big discrepancy between critics and audience again, whereas in the past we never used to have this with the Marvel movies. Critics and audience were pretty much on the same level, but there seems to be a big divide at the moment. I think The Eternals is going to be a hit and miss film for a lot of people. I think some are really going to love it, but I think others are going to be just a little bit confused because they don't know the characters. And I think there's a big plot hole because the Eternals really should have interfered when Thanos was doing his thing. So we'll see how they get around that. Andrew 46 and 2 says, I heard the spoiler that made Eternals even worse. Indeed. And Mark says, let's hope Ghostbusters and Top Gun 2 with second and third punch. I've got high hopes for Ghostbusters. I'm not expecting it to be an amazing film, but I really hope that it's a fun film. And so far from what I've seen, that seems to be the case. It's not making fun of the films that went before it, and that's a big thing for me. Movie critics are becoming the new game journalist. Well said. And Ren Zero says no spoilers. We're not going to spoil anything, I promise, Ren Zero. Absolutely. No spoilers. No spoilers for Doom. No spoilers for anything at the moment. And if anytime I do spoilers, I will always give you guys a heads up or ask if you want spoilers before. I won't ever just drop them on you. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about today was a show that I actually did a review on, or at least the first 3 episodes, which was Y: The Last Man. Now this is a comic book that I actually liked. I liked Brian K. Vaughan's book. I thought it was well written. It's generally in one of the the top 10 lists of all time. People really like this book. I actually like Saga better than Y: The Last Man. I think it's a better story and better written, but I still liked it for what it was. But the TV series, oh dear. So let me share this with you. So this is the news that it's been cancelled. But it didn't even make it through the first series. Oh dear. So this is directly from Brian K. Vaughan himself. He says, some expected and hard news about Y: The Last Man, just posted by a showrunner. But this is not the first time in 20 years I've seen Yorick and Co. escape the seemingly inescapable. I love this show, and I'm very hopeful Y will find a new home. Not just because it happens to employ more extraordinary women, people of colour, and members of the LGBTQ plus community, both in front and behind the camera, than any project I've been a part of, but because they've made something spectacular, the kind of comic that Pia Guerrero and I always wanted. These 3 episodes are the very best of the season, so please keep watching, and if you want to see this journey continue as much as I do, we encourage you to let the world know. And then you put hashtag Y lives on. So yes, why? Oh dear. Now, I gave my thoughts on the first 3 episodes, and the first 3 episodes is where I ended it, because I just could not continue. I was not enjoying the show. I was not having fun with the characters, and I just think it was really badly executed. This is a show and a book that's been in development hell for probably nearly 20 years. It's been bandied about. There was supposed to have been a film. There's been multiple attempts to get it to be made into a book or live action show over the years, and for whatever reason they just could not get it off the ground until now. So it says it took 14 years to bring Brian K. Vaughan's beloved Y: The Last Man to the screen, and now that the show is finally airing after a major recasting, a showrunner change, and even a move to a new platform, none of these are good signs for the show. FX on Hulu abruptly cancelled the drama Sunday after airing only 7 episodes of the planned 10. That's absolutely terrible for a show. And this is a show that had a lot banking on it. They really hyped up this show. You saw it in the tweet that he put out. He wasn't talking about the show. He was talking about ticking boxes again. And I think that's what really put off a lot of people, even people that loved the book. Just felt it really didn't capture the spirit of what was supposed to be portrayed. But let's see what else they've got to say. FX, the basic cable network overseen by CEO John Landgraf, rarely cancels its scripted content, instead tends to announce final seasons for its originals. It's also incredibly rare for the network, which became a part of the Disney fold as of a few years ago, to lower the acts on shows that are still running, as its creator-friendly execs opt instead to wait to gather data for things like delaying viewing and digital returns. But that oddly wasn't what was transpired with Y the Last Man, which won't wrap its freshman season now until November 1st. So this seems like it's really, really did not hit with audiences. So what happened? Sources tell Hollywood Reporter that FX had to make a decision on the future of the series by October 15th, which was the date that options on the cast of Why the Last Man expired. FX, which landed the rights to the IP in 2015, picked the drama up to pilot in April 2018. 3 months later, cast Barry Keoghan and Diane Lane in leading roles. FX ordered Y to series in February 2019. So this has been in production for quite a while. They knew what they were doing with the show. Production was delayed, failed to begin right away in April 2019, parted ways with the original showrunner, who was Michael Green, and Jessica Jones alum Ada Kroll, who joined during the pilot. Kroll and Green cited creative differences as the reason for their departure at the time. Green's pitch, Vaughan raved. So this is probably what they should have stuck with. Explore toxic masculinity. Oh dear. Eliza Clark was tapped as showrunner in 2019, and FX hoped to get the series back on track. So it seems like it wasn't just a show that they had trouble with. There was a lot going on behind the scenes as well. At this stage, they probably should have shelved it once again and gone back to the drawing board with it, but they persevered. Let me jump back and see what you guys are saying. Let's have a look. Hey, Kaylee, good to see you. Renzira says, is Batwoman still going? As far as I know, it is, yes. I think it's on the 3rd season, if I'm correct. But we'll see. And Keely Chow says, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a broken man from watching Batwoman. Yeah, that'll do it. Good to see you, Kaylee. So let's see if there's anything else we can pick out of this. I've got another one that I can go over, which is a little bit more succinct, but we'll see what they've got to say. I want to get to the part where they're actually talking about delays. Here we go. Because of the delays, a big mid-showrunner and cast changes, FX had to extend options on original cast stars, including Lane. And because of the pandemic, there we go, related production shutdown, also paid to extend the options of Sheltzner and other cast members. This seems like it just ballooned. So cast extensions added up, despite the fact that production came in at just under $8.5 million per episode. That's not cheap for a show. Clark pitched a potential second season to FX execs in late September after 4 of its 10 episodes had aired and well after reviews for the series were published. Y currently has a 73% among critics and 67% among viewers on Rotten Tomatoes. But as we know, not a lot of people follow Rotten Tomatoes anymore. Nobody that I have spoken to really enjoyed it, and nobody's actually continued watching it because of they just didn't enjoy it, and that's why I quit after 3 episodes. I just thought, this isn't worth my time. There's so much better stuff that I could be watching, and looks like I made the right decision. Ultimately, FX Brass declined to pay $3 million further to extend options, not wanting to leave the cast in limbo yet again. The cancellation decision was per sources, not based on viewership figures. Hulu, like other streamers, does not traditionally release rating data. Yeah, I can't imagine why that would be. That means FX has little to no data on which to evaluate the series, so you can only go by scores, like on Rotten Tomatoes, which I would take it with a gigantic pinch of salt, to be honest. Whilst other sources note here there has been a drop-off among viewers, it's worth pointing out that mid-series declines are not uncommon now, that viewer behaviour shifted to binge-watching entire seasons of a show. But this show, we had the first 3 episodes released in block, if I remember correctly, and then the episodes were released weekly, so that wasn't an option for the show anyway, unless you want to go back now and binge-watch the episodes that are available, which I don't think is the case. Without COVID, the show would have been on a different clock, notes one source at the timing of the cancellation decision. I can't really blame that because you guys went ahead with it. You know, they're so quick to blame the pandemic, but they're still pushing ahead with these projects. And I think the whole idea of blaming it now is wearing a little bit thin with audiences. Now the question becomes if producers, including Clark and Nina Jacobson, both of whom are based at FX Productions with overall deals, can successfully find a new home for their series about gender identity. Yeah, it was never supposed to be about gender identity. I think that's one of the big problems that they've pushed. They just completely sent out mixed messages. A lot of people that have read the books know that yes, it is about gender and it is about roles with males and females and how we see each other, but there's so much more to it than that. For me, one of the major sticking points was the main character of Yorick. He was just so unlikable. I just did not care to follow his story anymore. So FX Productions owns the series outright and, per sources, is supportive of plans to shop the show, though the studio has never focused on being a content supplier for outside networks and platforms. I would imagine they are quite desperate for somebody to pick this up. Now, whether that will be the case, for me, I don't think it is. I think it's just going to be forgotten. Because even when it was out, I did not see it trending. I didn't see it trending on Twitter. Like I say, I haven't seen anybody really reviewing it. I haven't seen anybody talking about it. It's just one of those shows that came and went, even though they really pushed hard to drum up enthusiasm and interest in it. It just wasn't there. Let's see. Hello, Leah Rose. Good to see you. Number One Sci-Fi says all are being delayed. Yeah, a lot are being delayed, absolutely. And MB Geek, good to see you, says, wow, they messed up Why the Last Man. What a shock. Too bad it's a great comic. It is, and we've talked about that in the past. The book I would always recommend to people. The show, not so much. Renzero says HBO Max will probably snap it up. They need content for the platform and they own the comics. And probably it will just go on to their streaming service and it'll probably just sit there. Now, whether or not they will get the chance to do the second season that they had planned, I would say that is very up in the air. And Shane Nolan says the producer's statement, how could they cancel an all-female production? We are so diverse. Exactly. Well, even, he said that in the tweet. He wasn't talking about the show being cancelled, about how disappointed he was, or, how this is what we're going to do. He made a point to talk about, identity politics. He talks about, a full female cast. He talks about the members that behind the production team, how many people of colour they had working, how many members of the LGBTQ community they had working with them, and all that is great, but it doesn't make it a fantastic show. You've got to be able to back up it as well. Mark says another show to die for recognizing and using item source material inappropriately. Indeed. It's out. Melody says, if you were the last man on Earth, how much orange juice would you require? Absolutely. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Yodam Darkglass says this one had a great potential for a good SJW show, if that's possible. They even blew that. They did, yeah. They really, looking at the way it was marketed, I saw the trailers. They really, really pushed this female-centric show, and they still couldn't get people behind it. But we've seen this before with productions. You know, people will say that they're going to support it. They will say on Twitter how amazing it is, but they don't support it at the end of the day. SJWs do not support things. They will, say they'll do it, but then they'll just move on to the next thing, like Locusts. It's the same when something comes out, they never buy the merchandise for it, for example. And I could probably put money on the people that were saying how brilliant and how brave the show was, that they've never actually read the books either. So I would absolutely agree with that, Jotun. And MV Geek, thank you. He says, if you hire the best, you will get diversity. If you hire for diversity, well, you can see what that does. Absolutely. We need to get back to the idea of hiring on merit rather than ticking boxes. That's the only way we're going to be able to get good entertainment back again. Thank you, Jesse. Much appreciated. Stick says the last man on Earth mufficated from feminism. Oh dear, and I really wanted to like Yorick. I did, but nice. And Arwen says, oh, oops, sorry, it skipped. SJWs can't even keep SJWs happy. There is no keeping SJWs happy. They thrive on being miserable and being outraged. It's what sustains them. Shane Nolan says, I saw a review. The reviewer said she loved the show because it highlights body dysmorphia. That doesn't surprise me at all. There was a lot of controversy about that. A lot of kind of bending of the rules that they set out in the books as well. And I hate to say that it was pandering, but that's how it came across. Project Storytime says, what was the show that got cancelled for being the lowest rated in sci-fi history based on a comic book nobody read? And Sir Persalot says, if diversity meant to exclude men, it's not very diverse at all, and the joke is on them. Absolutely. Yeah, I think they missed the point entirely with this book, and I can't really even blame the showrunners or the producers, because the writer was on board with this. Step by step, he was there. He knew exactly where they were going with this, and he can say how proud he was and how much he wants this show to succeed. But if you don't stick to the source material, what's the point? And Chris has nailed it as well. If they don't read the source material and won't support it financially, movie journalists really do sound like gaming journalists. They do. Absolutely. I agree with you, Chris. Colin says, Purple Valkyrie, talking of SJWs, did you see a recent character described as social justice vigilante? Another change in language. I haven't seen that, but I will look that up. Absolutely. And Kaylee says, from what Ruby Rose said, it seems like WB doesn't care about their safety as well. Yes, I was skimming over that earlier. She definitely had a lot to say about that, didn't she? Now, I will admit I'm not the biggest Ruby Rose fan, but that's what happened was a serious accusation, and Darth Hasta says Squid Game is a message to them that we want new stories. Yes, and they are desperately trying to discredit Squid Game and sink it as well. But again, it is being spread by word of mouth because people are talking about it. They are saying how good this show is. I've watched 3 episodes so far, and I'm really enjoying it. So, and I will continue. That 70s rock fan says progressives don't read. Don't read, don't support, don't buy the merchandise. Uh, and Chris says, now, wait a minute, there might be a tie between Y the Last Man and Watchmen series for the fastest comic related to be cancelled. Yes, and both of those, as both you and Project Storytime pointed out, have a lot in common by not sticking to the source material and inserting identity politics where they don't belong. Oh dear. And Psychodwarf says we want storytelling that rocks. We do, and we've said it before in the past. You know, a lot of people accuse people on YouTube of being negative all the time. We're not negative. All we want is good entertainment. That's all. And TC Canadian, good to see you, says I need to read more myself. I'd agree with that as well. I used to be an avid reader, but there never seems to be enough time to sit down and read at the moment. So that's a habit I need to get back into. Watchmen TV was truly painful. Yeah, that was another one I think I watched 3 episodes of and abandoned ship immediately. So it's always hard, I think, to translate a really famous comic book into either TV or series. It can be done, but you really, really need to be careful. Now we've got Dread was supposed to be coming to TV as well. When it was first announced, it was going to be one of the most expensive TV shows ever made, and even that seems to be having identity politics being pushed into it now. So, and that was one that I was actually looking forward to because I like Judge Dredd. I think he's a great character. MB Geek says Squid Games is #1 in 90 countries. Why? We want good writing, stories, and good character. We had to go to South Korea to find that. You know, the USA will do an SJW version. Oh, I don't doubt it. I think they will definitely try. Absolutely. But it's been said before, you know, it's happened with comics. We know that manga is kicking mainstream comics ass, and now Asian cinema is also where you need to go to get good entertainment. So Persalot says, with all this language altering lately, it really reminds me of 1984 INSOG attempts crushing crime by removing all controversial terms of speech. It is, and it's also a case of altering the meaning of words as well, which you get a lot of. Mark says, I wish Bone would be picked up for a miniseries. Bone, I would love to see as an animated series. I think that would work really well. But again, Bone's such a good story, and it's one that a lot of people hold dear to their hearts. I couldn't bear to see it be told in a bad way, and I think it would be, unfortunately. So maybe it's best just left as it is at the moment. Nearsighted Cyclops says, what zone is this UK for Blu-ray? It's PAL. Oh no, Blu-ray is multi-zone, isn't it? But DVD is PAL, if I remember correctly. Renzira says, Hong Kong cinema has always been good stuff, been a fan of it since the 80s, early 90s. A lot of people are, you know, and a lot of people are just discovering it for the first time. Anime, for example, has exploded among people, and people are really enjoying what they're seeing. Chris says, I would have loved a Dread series with Carl Urban reprising the role. He was in talks to do that, and I agree. I would have loved to have seen that because I think he made a fantastic Dread. But whether or not we'll ever see Mega City 1, I don't know. SRB, good to see you, says, can we get a Squid Game or SJW in it? where the games don't tick boxes. Can you imagine? And Shane says, I'm also worried about a Babylon 5 reboot. Yes, we talked about that as well. I am worried also. Keely Chow says to Roger Corman, if you're thinking about rebooting Black Scorpion, whatever you do, don't go to Greg Berlanti, Caroline Dries, and the CW. Wise words. Absolutely. Let's see if there's anything else we can pick out of this before I end. So, Vorhan conceded in a September interview that his source material turned out to be challenging subject matter and stressed the property could only work on television. I think there's a reason why it's been in pre-production hell for 14 years. And I think this has proved it, that it just does not translate well to television. I know at one point, like I said, they were trying to make it into a film series. That would have been a huge disaster. So, should a suitor for the series emerge, FX Productions would face the decision of selling library rights to season 1, as well as transferring ownership of the season or becoming a third-party content supplier. Something that under Disney is considered a long shot, given Disney's push for vertical integration. FX declined to comment on the cancellation as well for this story. I bet they did. Let's have a look at this last chapter, this last paragraph. Clark, meanwhile, has high hopes for the show and told TV's Top 5 that she envisioned why as a 5-season, 50-episode series. Well, talk about aiming high. I've never in my life been more committed to a story, and there's so much more left to sell. Clark wrote Sunday, Why the Last Man is about gender, about oppressive systems, about how oppressive can't even get through that sentence. About how oppressive systems inform identity. We had a gender diverse team of brilliant artists led by women. How is that diverse? At almost every corner of our production. Producers, writers, directors, cinematographers, production design, costume design, stunt coordination, and more. It's the most collaborative, creative, fulfilling, and beautiful thing I've ever been a part of. We don't want it to end. Well, they may not want it to end, but it seems like the audience does. So we will see if we get to see any more of Why the Last Man. But I wouldn't have any high hopes for that. Ranzira says, speaking of reboots, whatever happened to that Buffy reboot? To be honest, I'm really glad that there wasn't a Buffy reboot. And given what's happened, I don't think we're going to see it. But that's not a terrible thing. Let's see what else we've got. Colin says, currently a lot less worried about Babylon 5 than Doctor Who, but I'm not holding my breath for either of them. Yeah, and that's a really sad way to look at it as a fan. You know, all you want is a continuation of a story or characters that you love. You know, you shouldn't have to feel this way, but it's nothing new. And Wendology says, no Buffy reboot, please. I would agree, yes. Just let it sit. It's fine. Buffy was just fine as it was. Chris Persia says, I can give some good news. The first 17 seconds of Aquaman, King of Atlantis is great. The DC Comics intro, just don't watch the actual show. Oh, is that the animated show that looked with the CalArts looking animation? Is that the one, Chris? I remember seeing the production stills for it, and I was thinking, what the heck is this? And Dean Krantz, yeah, I think that is the reason why we will never see a Buffy reboot. It's just because of Whedon. Because he was found out to be a fake feminist, and because of the accusations leveled against him. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Yeah. And Darren Zone says, no Buffy or Xena reboot. Yes. I thought it was. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I remember seeing it, and it looked like, what was that other show that got absolutely panned? Thundercats Raw. That's what it looked like. And I hate that CalArts style. I think it's absolutely awful. And hello to Max Relax. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. So, guys, that is going to be it for today. I hope you have a good one. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined me today. Massive thank you to everybody who sent super chats. Really, really appreciate it. A little bit of a different show today, but thank you guys. I really do appreciate your support. I'll be back later on this evening. So I think the best thing that I can say to you guys is take care of each other.